loop. From Root Gaming, the only American left in WCS America, it is Minigun, aka Chad Jones. Oh man, I heard a crowd cheer. Very nice.
I did too.
Over in the bottom right, we have from Team Liquid, one of the most storied international winners in competition play. We have TaeJa in the red.
And TaeJa really confident, as he said in his last interview, saying, I don't care what style he's going to do, I'm going to just crush him. You know, that confidence is something that a lot of players seek to have. It's so hard to be comfortable, and when TaeJa is at his comfort zone, he is definitely the big favorite, no matter who he's up against. I don't care if it's Ro16, I don't care if it's Innovation, I don't care if it's MC. He is going to win the match with that confidence. So we're going to see how Minigun goes about this. I think the best way for Minigun to approach this is just to keep his style going, but throw in a wrench somewhere. Throw in that,
He does have those wrenches. When he played up against some Terrans, he would go with 10-gate Zealot Stalker.
I love that
sometimes.
Stuff.
You know,
yeah.
Normally you're accustomed to him going double gas. But he is capable of it. And don't forget, a long time ago, Minigun was kind of a cheeser. He would be a 1-base 4-gate Blink player and play that on Zelnaga Caverns until
Frodan. I know. I know Frodan.
Greetorp knows firsthand that Minigun used to be a cheeser, but now he's that big macro player where he really likes establishing 2-3 bases really quickly, gets his Stargate out early for Oracle Harass, and then a quick Robo. At the same time, so was TaeJa. Did you get to see when he took his gas, Andre? Took it on 15 supply.
Yeah, that's a more economic-centric style. You're obviously able to get your reactor out, you're able to get a couple of Marines out, and then get your command center. Now, the probe did get in there and see when exactly that refinery did go ahead and start up. So it gives him indicators. I know for sure you're most likely going to be doing some sort of either macro play or really late tech. And really late tech doesn't really win against anything.
It doesn't really give you any kind of advantage. Now, Andre, I do want to ask you, do you think TaeJa will go for a fast third CC like we've been seeing him do recently, or do you think he's going to play a little more safe against Minigun?
I wish I didn't see this. Still, I think he's going to go fast CC directly after the starport. That is quite his style to do something like that. It's going to be very dependent, though. I feel like, you know, the fast third CC is kind of like, I'm very confident that you're not going to be attacking me. So you might be putting a couple of assumptions in there. Now that I think about it a little bit more, I would say no, he doesn't do the third CC since this is the first game. He's feeling out his opponent. Yes, he knows Minigun, but he doesn't know exactly what he's capable of. He doesn't know what style he's doing, so he's going to play it very passive from here. Probably just throw down, I would guess, 2 additional barracks directly after this.
All right, so with that in mind, we'll see how it does. Oh, something also really cool that TaeJa likes to do is incorporate Widow Mines into his composition.
Yeah. How do you like that, Frodan?
I think it's really powerful, especially against early Oracle openings that we've been seeing quite often. It's not just players like Minigun, but players like Rain used to like doing it, parting. They also, a lot of the SKT Protosses as a whole, now that I think about it, really enjoy employing early Oracles to kind of harass and control the map. And having a Widow Mine can really force Protoss to be a little bit more careful with how they position things, because normally if it's just Marines, you can kind of derp and run away with your Oracle as soon as you kill everything.
Ooh,
but having a Widow Mine or two is really nice.
Nice scan. Is able to see that there's a Stargate already up. 2 Stalkers in the front here who should be able to receive these Marines pretty nicely. Oh, a lot of damage being done. You know, the thing about Stalkers, you need a lot of space to go ahead and kite them. Looks like Minigun will back up all the way to this top ground.
Ooh, the Marines are committing to this. The Zealot does take some damage from the Warping, but so does the Stalkers. TaeJa wants to pick off anything he can. Minigun's doing a good job of preserving his Stalkers at least. Doesn't want to lose that one really weak Stalker. 2 of them within the red zone, but TaeJa shouldn't be able to pick it off. Very good micro from Minigun, but TaeJa does get the clean scout and sees a 1-gate robotics tech, a very delayed one, and when he sees the Stargate, he should know exactly what's up.
That's right. There's a Widow Mine position to defend against this. The big problem, though, TaeJa traded off a lot of his Marines, so all of a sudden these Marines can't really defend by themselves.
Oh, it unplanted just when the Oracle arrived. That is
And look at this.
annoying.
He skirts by the second Widow Mine all the way over at the natural ramp. There are Marines here to intercept things. This is a great scout coming out from Minigun.
Oh, no! Oh, just outside the range. There is a channel time on the Widow Mine, about 2 seconds, I believe.
Wow. I thought for sure he was going to die there. Just to let you guys know, an Oracle does die in one shot to a Widow Mine. So he needs to be very, very careful with that. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't have production tab, guys. My bad.
No worries, Andre.
No Phoenixes incoming right now.
This is a Korean old school broadcast. No production tab, just the resources. Yeah, so just like you said, he's going to hold off on production of Phoenixes until, as the Oracle does drop, until he can get his robotics bay out. Now, something that's also really interesting, Andre, is that Minigun likes delaying his forges a lot.
Yes.
I've seen games where he goes up to 13
minutes, yes.
Right, yeah, where he's not getting a 1-1. Sometimes Terran is on 2-2 before he even finishes 1-1. But yet he's still willing to commit to a lot of Colossus.
What that tells me, Ferdinand, is that you have very limited gas to commit to 3 different things. It's units, your tech, and your upgrades. Tech being like High Templars or Colossus or something like that. But the AoE, right? And that tells me that he concentrates on getting a brilliant army composition and basically good positioning. Like, that's all he can really get. And a lot of units,
which is pretty much the crux of good Protoss play nowadays.
Yeah.
Positioning to intercept the drops, and the composition of how you deal is with almost every impending army is pretty much dictates the player like Rain from someone that's kind of struggling in the mid-tier over in Korea.
And then all of a sudden, Ferdinand, also think you free up a lot of chrono boost, right? Like getting 1-1 and 2-2 super fast, you're normally chrono boosting all that out. Instead of chrono boosting out plus 1-1, all of a sudden you're chrono boosting out probes. So it gets you that huge army so much faster. That's right.
Well, Minigun will have 2 Colossus at the 11-minute mark. TaeJa is instead opting for a 3rd base while he can put on a little bit of light pressure. But this is kind of what makes it really complicated, because normally as a Terran player, what do you have at 11 minutes that can deal with 2 Colossus that early on, assuming Minigun can control it, which has become a big X factor. Minigun is very good Colossus control, but if for some reason he slips and loses it, it's all over. Yes. So if TaeJa can really capitalize on that, because Minigun might not be paying attention, he might be a little out of position because of 2 Colossus. Oh no, he's paying attention. Good.
Okay.
Observer was there. I didn't see this.
You know, you said something that's so important, which is if Minigun loses a single battle, he's dead. I mean, he has to be so attentive here. Nice time warp. Oh my goodness. Killing off a lot of the Marines in the very beginning stage. Going to back TaeJa off. That was beautifully done. But what I want to really say is, the same thing is opposite. Minigun, if he wins the first major battle, he wins the game. And that's what it really comes down to. Everything really relies. Yes. Oh, most certainly. Because once I reset the air and then have air control with those Phoenixes, not only does it reduce your Viking count and make it so hard for you to contest Colossus, but also you can't get a good medevac count up to drop and to do things of value. And that actually limits the amount of space that you can take on the map, which in turn gives you a lot more options defensively and aggressively as the Protoss. I really feel like it's just so important to win the first battle.
Well, I couldn't agree more, considering that Minigun now has weathered the hardest storm, which is you're teching so much, and now he has his 3rd base and those forges at the 13-minute mark. TaeJa's going to engage a little bit, firefight here by the 3rd base. Minigun does manage to pick off a couple of these units, and these Vikings can't run. At the same time, it's not like the Phoenixes can completely chase them down either, because Vikings are pretty good. TaeJa's also poking the middle map, and Andre, before this engagement happens, I also want to point out that TaeJa started 2 starports with reactors very early on, so he's been anticipating it, trying to keep up in medevac and Viking production, although he is caught out in the middle of the map, and Time Warp does annihilate some of the units, allowing the Colossus to fire out their thermal lance and kill off a huge chunk of army. TaeJa's been taking a lot of trades that haven't been favoring him, even though he wants to be really aggressive.
And now you have to be ever so careful. I like the idea what TaeJa is doing, the 2 starports and reactors on top of them. But the one thing you have to realize, if you commit to this too hard, you have very limited gas as Terran. If you do this, you give up ghosts, right? That's what we normally see. We see 1 starport and then the Ghost Academy, you get ghost production, and you're able to weather a lot of the storms, literally. If you stop Phoenix production and switch over to High Templars, all of a sudden you have an army with Storm, and your opponent has very little medevacs and a lot of Vikings to counter, 3 Colossus? Well, if I have 6 High Templars, I will for sure win that fight. There's no chance that you can win it because you don't have the healing capacity to defend against some sort of composition like that. So tread very carefully, TaeJa, as you move over into this mass Viking count.
He is getting mass Vikings and pulling up the units tab. He's adding 3 more on top of his 10. He only has 4 medevacs. And just like you said, normally Terran doesn't really have to take his gases so quick at the third base. But TaeJa is opting for that because he needs those upgrades. He needs to get more units out. And now he's really starting to explode in production. We haven't seen TaeJa try dropping too much, but that's partially because of the Phoenix Colossus style. The Phoenixes allow you to control the map. Although Minigun's still been a little more passive with his Phoenixes, though. He hasn't been controlling the map as much as I'd like them to be.
Yeah. Well, the worst thing that could happen is you lose your Phoenixes, and then it's just game ending. You can't protect your Colossus. All your gas is invested in there instead of something like Stalkers. It's just not a good time. So I understand the Phoenix is staying back for quite a long time, but it's going to be difficult. Remember, these Vikings can just focus onto the Colossus. Almost one shot. That's 3/4 of its life.
That's a great trade for TaeJa thus far. Although it's, the inevitable result of the battle is far from decided, as TaeJa just has to be not paying attention for half a second and get force fielding completely annihilated by these 5 Colossi that are about to, well, they did finish 1-1. I was going to say about to finish 2-2, but I was looking at TaeJa's upgrades, who's about to finish 2-2 instead. So you will have that decisive advantage. TaeJa, again, still just roaming and taking a 4th base. I guess perhaps he's comfortable of letting it draw now. Akalon wastes a map that's historically been favorable towards long games if you're a Terran player, just because of how much you can control in late game scenario.
I like the poking back and forth. You're looking like you want to go in. It exposes the Phoenixes. You get 1 shot off. That's 1 Phoenix down. And all of a sudden, you can do something with that. Still very stagnant play. But the Templar Archives has been put down. I'm not sure where there it is. And Templars are on the way out. Archons are being merged right now. But Storm is just so scary for TaeJa. He wants to hit right before this big attack comes in.
We'll see how, I mean, TaeJa's still just going to control the map and really emphasize control when I really feel like he doesn't have too much. We're about to find the entire engagement, though, as we do have the Phoenixes engaging onto the Viking, but the Viking count is so massive, and a lot of the Colossus aren't shooting onto the huge ranks of the bio. Instead, they're just trying to focus on a couple that are in the front, and in the end, you kind of have the big deciding fight between the Vikings and the Phoenixes. You don't see that every day here, Greetor.
That's right. Picking up some of the Marines over here to remove a little bit of the DPS, but still, remember, those are 1-1 against 2-2. 2-2 bio. It's very difficult to engage straight up, but you can see the lack of medevacs out in the field definitely contributes to this. Now switching over to High Templars and Zealots, mainly still losing that first battle is terrible for Minigun. He is really, really far behind now. He's behind in upgrades, and now TaeJa has a lot of time to react to the composition switch.
I don't know if TaeJa really wants to push into this. These Vikings are very low amount of health, and they don't have that great upgrades. In fact, they only have weapon upgrades, and Minigun's going to try to confront it directly with a lot of charge slots. The Phoenix is even trying to get into the fray, but the reinforcements of TaeJa is just a lot of DPS to continue to add. A Storm onto the army will be able to salvage a lot of the situation, and Minigun will stabilize, I feel. But still, he's lost so much. All of his gas-intensive units have been completely wiped off.
That's exactly right. I mean, he has no Colossus to fall back on. He doesn't have that air dominance that you really need. Now, yes, the Vikings were kind of traded out here, but when it comes down to it, you don't want the Vikings to be traded out. You want the Vikings to be dead. And then all of a sudden, you still have Phoenixes out in the field to be able to deal with your opponent.
The High Templars have to be very careful. One of them does get picked off. Minigun can't really afford to lose any more of those. Although he already is in a tough position. He doesn't really have much resources or a bank, while TaeJa has been able to get a 4th base, secure that, and exercise a lot of map control. Don't have to worry about his reinforcement getting caught out of position. We've seen so many Protoss players love counterattacking while Terrans do this, with a lot of Zealot run-bys. Minigun has not been able to put a probe out into the map because TaeJa's just been roaming everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he has complete map control. Everything's been looking beautiful. Now expanded to a 5th base, going for those drops now that Phoenixes are out of the game. Colossus have been added into the army, but it's still very difficult. Remember, four starport production, you could say, 2 starports with reactors. That's very difficult to deal against. TaeJa is going to have to pick up over here, but there is big tech going into the 3rd base all the way on the other side. No units over there to defend.
TaeJa will just go ahead and try to bulldoze his way through the third while also double dropping up towards the natural expansion. How is Minigun going to split and react? The Nexus dropped and immediately lifts out of there with the Ignite Afterburners, and now TaeJa will be able to focus on really important textures like the Templar Archives, and Minigun is going to fall even more far behind in the process of trying to defend all this aggression from TaeJa.
Just doing a fantastic job. TaeJa has been dominant throughout this entire game, and he's going to just maintain that advantage. 175 supply to 138. Now Minigun is going to move out into the middle of the map, but look at how many ghosts are over here. EMPs can scatter, but they're not yet going off. And there it is, Minigun GG. TaeJa will take